Hello. This is a story about a man named Edward. Edward lives in a very small and quiet village. But today, he is in a big and famous city. He wants to see many new things and meet new people. Let's start the story and walk with Edward through the streets of New York. It is a sunny morning in the big city of New York. Edward stands on the street and looks at the tall buildings around him. The air is fresh, but the city is very loud and busy today. Edward feels small because the stone buildings are like giant gray mountains. He wears his brown coat and holds a small map in his warm hands. He wants to see the park and find a quiet place for lunch. The sky is blue and the sun is bright above the busy people. Edward is ready to start his long walk through the famous city streets. Chapter 1. The Big Street. Edward walks down the wide street and watches many fast yellow cars. The street is like a long river of yellow and black metal cars. Edward thinks about his small village and feels a little bit nervous now. He sees a big fruit shop and stops to look at red apples. He decides to buy one sweet apple to eat during his long walk. Edward gives some money to the man and puts the apple in his pocket. He feels better because he has food and a good plan for today. Now he continues his walk and looks at the beautiful shop windows. Chapter 2. The Green Park. Now Edward walks into the park and sees many green trees and grass. The park is like a green island in the middle of the city. He thinks the grass is soft, like a green carpet under his boots. Edward sees a small lake and watches the white ducks in the water. He wants to sit on a wooden bench and rest for a moment. Edward sits down and eats his red apple while watching the happy children. He takes a photo of the lake with his old black camera. The park is very quiet, and Edward feels very happy and calm now. Chapter 3. The Tall Bridge. Edward leaves the park and walks toward the big bridge over the water. The bridge is like a long silver bridge to another beautiful world. He thinks about the river and how big the world is. Edward sees a tall woman with a white dog on the bridge. He wants to walk to the middle to see the city boats. Edward walks slowly and looks at the blue water under his feet. He reaches the middle and feels the cold wind on his face. He smiles because the view of the city is very beautiful from here. Chapter 4. The Hot Coffee. The wind is cold, so Edward looks for a warm and small cafe. This cafe is like a warm home for a bird in winter. He feels hungry and his legs are a little bit tired now. He sees a small cafe with a red door and goes inside. Edward orders a big cup of hot coffee and a sweet cake. He sits by the window and watches the busy people walk past. He drinks his coffee and feels the warmth in his cold hands. Edward is happy because the cafe is warm and the cake is good. Chapter 5. The Big Museum. After his coffee, Edward walks to a very large and famous museum. The museum is like a white palace with many wide stone steps. He sees many old statues and beautiful paintings from different countries. Edward thinks the museum is very quiet and special inside. He finds a large room with ancient gold jewelry and bright crowns. He stays there for 1 hour because everything is so interesting. Edward is happy because he loves to learn about history and art. Chapter 6. The Way Back. The sun is low in the sky, and Edward feels very tired now. He looks at his small map to find the way to his hotel. He walks past a big library and a tall hotel with gold doors. The street lamps are bright, and the city looks different in the evening. He finds his hotel and enters his small but very clean room. Edward takes off his brown coat and sits on the soft bed. He is happy to be back in a warm and quiet place. Chapter 7. Memories in the Hotel. Edward is now in his hotel room. It is late, and the city is dark outside. He sits at a small table and looks at his old black camera. He looks at the photos of the lake and the big bridge. Edward smiles because he has many beautiful pictures of New York. He writes a list of his favorite things in his blue notebook. He thinks about the green trees and the sweet red apple. He feels very tired, so he turns off the light and goes to sleep. Chapter 8. The Way Home. It is a new morning, and the sun is bright. Edward puts on his brown coat and leaves the hotel. He walks to the big train station for the last time. He buys a newspaper and a bottle of water for his trip. When the loud train arrives, Edward finds a good seat near the window. The train starts to move, and the tall buildings become very small. Edward is happy to go back to his quiet village. He has a warm heart because his big adventure was perfect. This is the end of Edward's big adventure. Now he is back in his small village, but he is not the same. Every time he looks at his photos, he remembers the tall buildings and the blue river. He knows that the world is very big and beautiful. Edward is happy because he has a quiet home and a great story to tell. Thank you for reading about Edward's day in New York. Goodbye and have a nice day.